you can react to the questions that we ask if you want to express your opinion as well. But we can go ahead and get started. So I guess both Ben and Andrea, these are for both of you guys. First question, are you more introverted or extroverted?
More introverted.
I'm an introverted extrovert. I have moments.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say like everybody at Constellation is an introvert extrovert. I think that's kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How exactly does that work? Like,
it means that when 5 o'clock comes around, I stop talking about Constellation. So, but like until 5 o'clock, you get to talk about whatever. I'll put on, I'll talk through everything, and then kind of need to go into hibernation and recharge the batteries, collect your energy, get a clear head. I think I was more extroverted when I was younger. So crypto's made me more introverted, I guess.
Yeah, it's important to have that work-life balance for sure, especially if you're trying to avoid burnout, which is, if you're going all day, every day, it's pretty much inevitable. So that's good to have.
Yeah.
If you had to choose one, Ethereum or Polygon?
Man, you're asking a base layer protocol to pick between a layer one and a protocol. I mean, the protocol always is more fascinating to me.
All right.
So Ethereum, but
yeah,
feel a little weird talking about another protocol at this
point. Yeah. Like, who do you like, blondes or redheads? And I'm a brunette.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
that's great.
Fair enough. That's a very good point. Would you rather have a team with decent developers and an exceptional marketing team, or a team with decent marketing and exceptional developers?
Exceptional developers. You can hire they're easier to find marketing people, maybe. I don't know. Go ahead, Ben. You can answer.
Oh, and yeah, I was like, I'm not allowed to answer this. Not. It's like, once again, you're asking who your favorite child is. You're like, who's your favorite child? The firstborn or the secondborn? It's like, I can't answer that. I think you need a balanced team. I've seen a lot of great technology out there that really can't be marketed. They just don't know how to market it, and it's really tough. And I've seen a marketing team be really exceptional at marketing, but they're marketing vaporware, right? And I think that's like you have to balance that, and no company gets it right out the gate. You have to decide, like, right now, hey, our company's really, really good in development mode, and we're really poor at executing on articulating our messaging. And then an evolution happens where you get really good at articulating your messaging, but technology's lagging behind. I mean, I saw this in the digital advertising world for 10 years. That's how the ebbs and flows of the whole industry went for like 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, that's very true. So yeah, both of them are very, very important. It's tough to market a crappy product, but it's also tough to develop something where you can have good marketing and have a crappy product, but not have it be successful. Essentially, I think I botched that wording, but fourth question.
You got the point across.
I tried my best. Fourth question: which change was more / is more significant, Web 1 to Web 2 or Web 2 to Web 3? I think we all have a similar answer, but curious to hear your guys' thoughts.
I would say, man, that's a tough. They both have socioeconomic impact. I would have to say Web 1 to Web 2. That was and I'll probably be biased until, like, Jack Dorsey's Web 4 comes out, and then I can reflect on that and be like, no, Web 2 to Web 3 was cool. But I don't know, I think one of the coolest eras was like what a website could do and how people, like, corporations were like, we're going to pay 10 million for a website, and it's just like a static page that did nothing. And it's like, I mean, we're kind of in that time right now, but yeah, I don't know. They both have like their pros and cons. I think this is a fascinating time to be alive right now. You know, it's amazing. And it's funny because I have to deal with the community every day on like, why isn't this ready? It's like, you're asking why Amazon wasn't built in a day. Like, it took them 20 years to move beyond book selling online. Like, think about that for a second. Like, and it seems so simple, right? So, I mean, we're both in these like amazing transitions of industry converging, multiple industries converging. It's really hard to say.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And the community has made their claim, and all of them voted for the second option, Web 2 to Web 3. Given that we are a crypto-based community, I think that makes sense.
That's because you guys weren't around for Web 1.
Yeah,
you didn't. You
Yeah.
didn't see the massive change. I used to work for a database development company back in the day, and it was huge, going from brochure websites to data-driven sites that could actually interact with you. It was like, oh my god! and so now, yeah, Web 2 to Web 3 will be huge, and it's going to be a paradigm shift once everybody can, participate in that stakeholder economy and have a really interact and almost, become part of the network. That's what's happening. But that evolution from 1 to 2, I mean, I think that was like inventing the wheel almost. I mean, that was pretty big.
Yeah, most of our team is 22 or under, so we didn't experience that side of Web 1 to Web 2.
I'm like crypto mom. That's me.
I think the autonomous education that is occurring right now, where people have a choice to go to college or find discipline in their educational track, and educational gamification, right? You guys use gamification, like how we're able to use that on the crypto level to spawn education is fascinating. Like that I will say is like one of the coolest things is like, I don't care where somebody went to college when they apply at Constellation. Like, I literally just want to see how they think. And in the former years, college taught you how to think analytically and inquisitively, right? And the Ivy Leagues were known for teaching you how to frame questioning, right? Which spawned them to really take over a lot of industries. But that isn't something that has to be isolated for wealthy families that can send their kids there to Ivy Leagues. Like, people have the tools to become to educate themselves, go through development school, right? Like, I tell and maybe to your point, like, which one's better? I don't know if it's better, but when I talk to people and they're like, oh, my kids are growing up, I was like, how old are they? And they're like, oh, 3. And I was like, cool, get them into coding school. It's like, no, they're going to be in sales. I was like, nah, get them into coding school and socialize them. And you'll create an army of an individual. If you can be a social engineer and think analytically like that, like you'll be a warrior. It's insane.
That is really good insight.
Like a triple threat, we've got some people like that at Constellation. That was really amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Awesome to hear. Last question: who or what has impacted you the greatest on your drive into the Web3 world?
Ooh, man. Yeah, this is like one of those questions where you can't be like, yeah, my dad.
My dad's my hero.
My dad really pushed me
into Web3.
Actually, this might sound egotistical, but in a way, I do thank my educational upbringing to be curious and follow your gut and guide, because there are so many people that said that this was a joke. Like, I didn't get into crypto because of the currency side. I got into it because the technology was fascinating, how to organize people. But like, that wasn't one individual. Like, I don't know. I don't really look at one individual as like guiding or mentoring me. I look at like accumulation of people. I think that actually goes to how I learned in college. I did like 3 majors in 4 years and 6 honors thesis. Like, to me, it was about synthesizing knowledge and not putting one individual or one thought on a pedestal, but instead kind of seeing the convergence of multiple disciplinaries that really kind of help shape the whole space. And so, like, I can't really point to one thing. Like, for me, it's been a mix of just having an inquisitive mind and going, wow, this is super freaking weird. I'm going to follow it weird. You know, my grandfather taught me how to invest when I was like 14, when he realized I had no athletic skills. And he was like, tell me what the subculture is in your generation. And then I'm going to teach you how to like buy stocks. Right. And that was, you know, after researching my friends and their weird eccentric self. And that was Apple at the time, right? They had like colored desktop things, and they gravitated towards a counterculture that was like, fuck Microsoft. And I was like, dude, this is kind of weird. Well, that paid off like significantly to be the counterculture. And here we are again. This is the counterculture, right? Like, it is the revenge of the nerds. It's awesome. It's dope. It's fun.
Revenge of the Nerds, the new Star Wars movie coming out.
Yeah, that's a really good point, though. Very, very good point. I really like the emphasis on kind of not putting anything on the pedestal. You said that actually it's kind of an eye-opening thought, right? Not to get too comfortable with what you're like the one expertise that you have.
Right. I mean, like, dude, I mean, Elon Musk might be a lizard person or a clone for all we know, right? And it's like it's like just a media bot that's running memes now on Twitter. Like what is going on in this world? And you look at these people, it's like, be careful who you attach your wagon to, right? Like, it's just like, because that in a way is a marketing cycle they want you to get on, right? And if you can control your own kind of ethos, which is really, really tough to do in a day where we're bombarded with media, then you don't put people on a pedestal, right? We're in a time where the Rockefellers of our time are the tech giants, right? They're buying up, they're creating infrastructure and buying media, like, but we don't see it in the same way that back in the day that the Rockefellers were buying the railroads, the oil, you know, car companies, the media, all like a complete, what would you say, customer journey of understanding their user all the way down to the very end point, right? You know, manipulating how we use oil, how we transport oil, and then what is the end use of oil? It's a car, right? Oh, well, we need more things that use oil. Well, let's get rid of gas lamps. Let's create electricity. Electricity has to use oil. We got to burn that, right? So, anyways, I'm tangential, but like, I think my point is just like, be careful what narrative you latch yourself onto.
Yeah, question everything, and just, you know, follow little threads, and, you know, find what's exciting and interesting. And that's how I got into crypto. I got in 2013 by listening to this like crazy eccentric guy named Cliff High. I mean, he's a great guy. He's a just out of this world thinker. He created something called the web bot back in the 90s, I think, that would scan the web and find for language. And he found that the language that people, you know, expressed on the web would be predictive of the future, which is pretty cool. But anyway, so he's out there. But yeah, he started talking about Bitcoin back then. And, you know, he's major conspiracy theorist now, boy. but it's cool. It just, I mean, it just turns you to, you know, think differently and really just follow your passion and, you know, just kind of question things. And it's funny because Web3 has really opened up so many possibilities of things we can do now that we never could before. And so there's so many unexplored avenues and ways we can take our power back. And all these projects that are building on Constellation, I mean, we've got a bunch of them that are pretty, they're pretty amazing, and they're going to change the world, you know, when they launch and actually, you know, get adoption, people start using this stuff. So I don't know, we're a very interesting time right now.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of support from some really, really great projects that, you know, you definitely don't attract a lot of people that aren't quality. And I think that shows a lot about what you guys are developing and a lot of your partnerships. Zach, you want to?
Thank you.
Yeah, and so I guess I'll take it away, but kind of getting more into Constellation. Do you want to give, for anyone that might not be extremely familiar with how you guys are differing from, you know, previous previous developments on the on the blockchain, or even outside of blockchain tech, right? Getting into DAG and things like that. Do you guys want to take it off into like a quick intro, and then we'll get into some more deep dive questions?
Yeah, how like techie do you want me to be? How high
As
level do you want me to be? I can
as far deep as
Yeah.
you think would be good.
I have about 5 different pitches that I can give at any different time based off of what somebody's experience level is. And I still don't get it right all the time. So basically what Constellation is Constellation is building the hypergraph, which is a layer 0 infrastructure that enables layer 1 application development with a more flexible framework called state channels. And when I say more flexible, I mean something akin to a smart contract architecture, which is very limited in its functionality and has created multi-layer scaling schemes that are built on top of itself. And what Constellation has said is that we want to build developer tools that are that integrate at the core of the protocol so that you can actually run consensus on a data type at the core. Why this matters is because we believe that the future is that you don't have to choose between blockchain technology and centralized database microservice technology, but the developers can interchange or interoperate or use a mix of tooling when they design any application. And so what we're building in a decentralized network will mirror developer application support in a centralized capacity. And so why we built on top of that is layer 1 application development. So a lot of businesses are coming to us with ideas on how to create a cryptocurrency business that ties into our protocol that can scale beyond what the capabilities of Ethereum are. So a lot of the use cases in Constellation are vastly different than, say, an Ethereum or a Solana, because of the scalability that we're building out for it. And so this is opening up a whole new slew of use cases that actually go back to about 4 or 5 years ago when blockchain was promising this like interoperability of connected cars and flying cars, and everything's going to be decentralized. And machines are going to be trading data between each other, and you don't need a centralized database. Well, that can't be done on a smart contract platform and one that has high gas fees. And so we completely restructured what we envision the whole framework of the world powered with blockchain. And as such, we've got like 70 plus companies building on top of Constellation at a very early stage in our development. We're the only infrastructure protocol working with the United States Air Force, where we're using our protocol to identify threat vectors on centralized databases. We're the only protocol that uses multi-layer consensus mechanisms, which allows for speed and scalability. So we differentiate ourselves in quite a different ways, but I would say ultimately it comes down to the projects that are coming. When you come to Constellation, you're going to see a lot of crazy visions that aren't just like DeFi degen visions. You're going to see a lot of like big thinking, big visionaries that really want to use blockchain at the core of every application. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing for the audience.
No, I think that was a very good explanation. And so where would I guess you said that you weren't necessarily in direct competition with a lot of these other layer zeros, right? You're kind of accomplishing hitting a different mark. You're going for the feeless transactions, at least for the users, because of the amount of volume you will have the transaction volume on the network, right? And so where do you guys see yourself in as far as the different areas, the different spheres of the world operating, amongst these other layer zeros? Like, where do you see you guys, what's the sphere that you guys are trying to conquer versus something like any other layers that are out there?
Yeah, I think that, well, a lot of the vision that we have is that, is that, yes, I think some of these ecosystems are competitive, right? My analogy is like crypto is like the NFL, and each protocol out there is like one NFL team, right? And one year you're going to love their defense, and another you're going to love their quarterback and their coach, and then next year people are going to get traded off, and you're going to have a remix. But you're creating loyal fans, right? That's your community, and they're kind of the ones that are the critique. They critique you. Oh, we don't like the quarterback. He sucks this year. He's arrogant. Enter in Aaron Rodgers, right? Stuff like that, right? You're going to have this. You're going to have this like. You're going to have this competition, but at the same time, we're all playing in the NFL. We're all playing the same rules, and it's to our benefit that the entire NFL gets marketed correctly and that we're able to play a game and match against each other. And we're starting to see that on the layer one application level. I'm talking with a lot of amazing projects that are going this omni-chain approach, right? They want to use Solana for this piece. They want to use like Cardano for this piece, and they want to use Ethereum for this, and then Constellation, right? And Constellation's kind of been we just started deploying developer tooling, but what we're finding is really around this data use case, being able to define a data type and reconcile that on a blockchain. So real complete flexibility in saying, taking a piece of data and attributing some sort of cryptocurrency incentive or bounty, right? We're already doing this with a device. We bought a company last year called Door Technologies, where we're selling this hardware miner. And you buy this device and you stick it above your doorway and you collect data. And we give you cryptocurrency as a reward for collecting that data. Well, how do we know that data is real? Is that we validate that metadata that's collected, right? The geolocation, how long the uptime has been, does the hardware have the right firmware? All these different points. What type of data are we collecting? Is this device in a bathroom, a resident, a commercial place? Is it in a football stadium? We have to have some verifiable truth that we can reward people for this and create this massive global footprint of data that can be queried by anybody, right? Data right now is mined primarily by the big tech giants, like we were talking about earlier. And so we believe in this whole vision that data should be owned by the user and monetized by the user, not just those that think they can monetize for you. And so that's where our use case is really kind of shining some light right now. And I think that's the vision for the next 4 years.
That's very, very awesome, actually. And I was curious at first about the kind of data that the door traffic monitor was actually collecting. But now that you say it like that, I mean, it reminds me a lot of Tesla, right? Tesla's big sell isn't necessarily the car itself, but it's the fact that they're kind of creating all this data for the streets and things like that, knowing like there's so much information that they're collecting that they can utilize in the future to sell, and is giving them a huge kind of advantage. That's actually
I mean,
very,
think about
very
these,
interesting.
like, I mean, when you think about like autonomous cars, it's pretty fascinating, right? You see these like Waymo cars driving around cities, like mapping stuff, and they're paying people like to map the streets over and for like, I don't know, it's been like close to like 7 years, right? And now you're starting to get in like to connected traffic lights. Like you're starting to pull and ping different IoT sensors to provide some sort of depth analysis to understand weather, how does that impact the car to stop? Like it's so much data coming in. And, we believe that decentralized networks can solve this problem of this like infrastructure that's leveraged by connected data and machines talking to each other in an autonomous way.
Yeah, for sure. That's very, very interesting. And that makes me kind of curious to hear your take on a couple other projects like IOTA and like Shimmer. I know that they're releasing around the same time as your mainnet. But I'm not sure how in depth, I don't want to go too in depth with that right now, but it's a very interesting point. So I actually
I think that
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Chris, I was just gonna. I'll for everybody that's listening, I'll say that a lot of what Constellation believes is that each of these ecosystems and protocols are doing something really spectacular, but there's no silver bullet by one ecosystem. Cosmos is doing cool stuff. Solana, IOTA's done stuff. They all have different design choices that are gravitating certain use cases, and based on their development roadmap, they might appeal to certain audiences. Based on our development roadmap, we'll appeal to different audiences. So they all kind of have different nuances that we're really pulling from. If that helps kind of answer that question.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I guess it's just, I mean, time will tell what sphere every project fits into. But I mean, just look at TradFi and businesses. There are a variety of businesses seeking to accomplish the same thing for different users, right? Whether it's for a company, whether it's a specific type of company, like focusing on if you're creating kitchenware, right? You're going to have 20,000 different companies, but each of them is targeting a different market. And so it's kind of similar in this space, except this is a far bigger space. So even more players that can actually, hop in and take a big piece of the market share. And so kind of branching back a little bit, do you guys want to touch on, I kind of wanted to go into some of your partnerships, really mainly the U.S. Air Force, and trying to see what you guys feel like is that one piece that you're providing that other projects can't. So what is that like separating factor on why the U.S. Air Force would work with you guys over, some other protocol or project?
Right. It's a great question. So we've been working with the Air Force for about 3 years, and our first working contract with them was really kind of an exploratory contract where it was like learning how to navigate the 1,000-some agencies in the United States Air Force and government, right? And so it's pretty complicated space. When you get into government contract work, it's a very complicated space to navigate. And so your goal is really to find kind of a shepherd or somebody that kind of guides you through it. Where we are today is we're actually building prototypes for them. So we're actually finalizing some of those right now. I can't disclose a lot of what we're doing, but I can tell you that sitting through a lot of these conversations in the earlier days, they were exploring Ethereum and Hyperledger. And what they found was that you had these organizations that were building out frameworks and solutions for tracking supply chain management, but the government didn't see that as something that was worth their time to spend money. Like it just didn't offer a deep enough solution. But when we started talking about data assurance, going back to what we talked about earlier, we initially found they kind of turned their heads, right? They started whistling a different song and tune, whatever it is. And they were like, oh, wow, well, why didn't you say this is more about data assurance? That's really fascinating. And so that got us on like the path, right? We're talking about marketing and developers. We've got amazing developers doing great stuff. How do we articulate this technology in a way that gets traction? And so why they decided to go with us and why they're continuing to go with us is because they had a very clear rule. And the rule was, you can't change our legacy systems. It would cost us too much. They're still going through which cloud service provider they're going to work with. They're still going through this debate, the contracting between like Google or Amazon. That's been in the works for like 4 years or so. And it's still going on. So one of the contingencies was that we couldn't alter their legacy systems and hardware. We had to work with what they already had. And our technology and our developer tools allow for the United States government to not have to alter any of their legacy infrastructure and be able to use blockchain technology at scale. And this kind of has then built us into what are we building? Well, we're using our network and consensus mechanism to identify data threats on centralized databases. So you could say this is a cybersecurity solution in a way. I don't like to say that because it's very niche in a way, but basically what they're doing is they're saying that, hey, we can't have one central threat vector when providing security on a centralized database, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need a network and a solution that can identify threat vectors in a decentralized capacity. This is why the military is very pro decentralization, because if you can thwart off threats against or hacking against centralized databases on a
Mm-hmm.
decentralized network, then that network doesn't have a centralized threat point. Well, how do you do that? Well, our consensus mechanism and the multi-layer consensus mechanism that we have really allows us to organize and reshuffle the network so that no one individual has that control or presents a potential threat vector. Just look at, for example, look at Ethereum. With their merger over the past week, the ETH merger into proof of stake, and then what came out was, well, 40% of the network is owned by like 3 nodes. That presents a threat vector, if I would say. I mean, yes, it's not one central point, but now what you're doing is you're shifting away from the original vision into something where now the wealthiest own the network. How do you know the wealthiest on the network couldn't be compromised? Right? How do you know that? Well, because they're incentivized because they have a lot of holdings. But what if the incentive is greater on the other side, right? This whole game theory starts to come into play, but yet proof of stake is much easier for people to understand, and the power dynamics are clearly at play. So anyway, sorry, I went on a diatribe, but hopefully that gives you a little insight of what we're doing.
That was very, very, very clear. And as for like the whole ETH merge thing, I think a lot of people don't realize, like, yeah, they're big players, but I mean, it'd be the same as the government having that centralization, right? Because the government has the funds. If investments were made, they could far outweigh any other investment made by any individual. So at that point, it's just the same system we have now with Web3 tech. But yeah, I definitely see the point there. And that's super huge. I mean, from what I'm hearing, like a lot of it is the security and scalability of your network that really outlines how you guys separate yourselves from any competition. And those are huge things.
Yeah. So there's something called the Blockchain Trilemma. I recently wrote about this, and it was published in Hacker Noon like a couple of weeks ago. It's called the Blockchain Trilemma, and a lot of different protocols are trying to solve this. And this is where it comes down to design choices. Like, how do you go about doing it? And the trilemma is speed, security, and decentralization, right? So how do you achieve those three? It's extremely, extremely hard. And I don't think there's going to be one clear winner out of all this. Like, I want to be the first one to say, like, this is a collaborative, this is a group sport, right? We all got to play for the NFL, right? We don't have one team that's playing for a baseball team. We're all playing the same rules, and we're all going to gravitate towards different audiences, fans, based on our approach or location, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I guess, I mean, you guys have another very interesting piece, right? You guys, and I'm talking about the fees on your network. So gas fees, you guys have a very interesting approach to that. Do you want to dive into a little bit of that? Because from my understanding, users will not have any gas. That'll be mostly put on to bigger players in the space. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So I think the analogy is like, I guess when you think of like a Web 2 SaaS company, you've got a freemium product, you've got a better product, and you got the best, you got enterprise, right? That costs more. And so the freemium is really kind of the gateway to get you to use the software. And then when you start getting comfortable with it and new features come out and new capabilities, you might upgrade because now you're stuck on the product. And so you upgrade to unlock more features and functionality. That's kind of our approach that we thought about too, was that in the early days of the network, there wouldn't be a lot of utility of the network. And so why don't you just make this free? Make it easy for people to spin up an application and not have to figure out how do gas fees play into our business model, and oh, it's volatile. Today it's super expensive it's $100 to do a transaction, but tomorrow it's $4.
Yeah.
And there are layer 2 solutions, like I said, that are happening on Ethereum, but it's these multi-layer scaling solutions that are like band-aids on band-aids on band-aids. You're not taking care of the wound at the core, right? Like that's a lot of the issue. And so with Constellation, it's going to be the emission or the fees are going to be based on how much you're using the network. So we're looking at like massive use cases that will ultimately use the network, and they will be the ones responsible for paying for network throughput in a large capacity, versus like the peer-to-peer transaction component we think should be free. Right? It should be easy for people to transact and not think about it. But then you have, like I said, we're building developer tools for layer one. Layer one is their challenge then in this like gamification world is to come up with business models that they can freely put onto the blockchain, right? Right. Think of it like charging admission to a museum, right? You can go to Paris for free, but a museum costs some money, right? And then the museum has to pay a tax back to the network. Okay, that's a scalable solution where the museum can actually conduct their business and not go, today we have to charge $200 for admission, and then tomorrow you have to pay $4, right? And so that's the type of thinking that we want to invite to entrepreneurs, is you put the onus on the application layer to develop the business model that they see fit for their use case, which we believe will amplify an exponential amount of use cases.
Yeah, I love the thought process there. Like bringing in the average consumer is going to, one, I mean, the marketing, it's like free marketing, right? And then two, I mean, so really you're gaining a lot more than you're losing off of a transaction fee. But then two, I think that's like the biggest barrier to the individual, not to business integration, which is who's being charged, or I guess enterprise integration, which is who you guys are charging. I mean, enterprises do, like, there's a lot of money in big business, and I mean, as you've seen, like US Air Force and other groups like that. But I mean, the individual isn't going to spend $4 per fee. I mean, they might as well use a different solution. So I really like the approach that you guys have taken through all that.
Yeah, I mean, well, think about like the military example when we talked with them, when they were exploring like tracking supply chain for their missions and fleets. And if they had to pay like a fee to track an object as it goes from A to B, you're like, is the value really there? Right. And I think that we were force-fed use cases early on in blockchain that were primarily led by corporations like IBM doubling down on their blockchain effort and going, wow, this is going to be the use case. And then the Ethereum Foundation, called Consensus, was ultimately kind of pushing this massive use case. And then what they did is Consensus went back to the drawing board. It's like, this isn't going to work. We tried pushing it. Let's try this DeFi thing. And they did a ton of research on DeFi. And they're like, hey, this could actually really work. And then they doubled down on it, right? Putting massive investments into Uniswap and other, kind of capabilities, because it was all around the financial side, which is really where Ethereum plays extremely well in.
Yeah, for sure. And that's also a very good point. You guys are, it's like, from what I'm hearing, you guys are very, very good at paying attention to the market, the current market, and not necessarily just like market conditions, right? But what's being offered and what these different networks are capable of, and finding that niche to fit into. So that's really awesome to kind of see your take on it. It's very, very high level thinking for sure. I have a couple questions. I might change the topic just a little bit, just so we can get to them before we have that Kahoot. But firstly, so with the mainnet 2.0, will the soft node capabilities change at all?
The soft node capabilities will not change. Will not change right now.
Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
We're still working on opening up the network. Yep.
Gotcha.
So we will be
awesome.
onboarding more mainnet nodes, and then we'll be expanding. Yeah. So nothing will change on the soft node side.
Awesome. And then another thought on that. Investing into Constellation versus participating in the ecosystem, like i.e. purchasing or owning the DAG token. Many seem to have misconstrued the two. So investing into Constellation versus participating in the ecosystem. Sorry, this question's a little bit, I might be getting the wrong idea here, but from my understanding, it'd be different to invest and participate in your ecosystem. How can someone do each? I think is what they're trying to get at.
So Constellation has two primary tokens. One is the DAG token, which will be used to purchase throughput on the network. People stake a certain requirement of DAG to be able to run a node on our network, right? And then once they run a node on a network, they receive DAG as a reward for securing the network. So one, you can purchase DAG. I think you can download our Stargazer wallet. You can actually buy it directly from our Stargazer wallet in the iOS or Android store, or go to KuCoin or Gate. There's a few others. And then there's Lattice, Lattice or LTX, which is an ERC20 token. This allows us to kind of keep our knowledge base growing in what evolutions are going on in the Ethereum network so that we can bring in some of those learnings into Constellation. But Lattice token, we did a big hypergraph hour yesterday, which I think will be up on YouTube soon, where we kind of unveiled this Web3 gateway where you can actually use LTX to secure airdrops and rewards from projects that are building in Constellation. And there's a myriad of things that you can do with the LTX token. So those are ways that you can purchase and participate, right? You can purchase DAG, you can host a soft node where you don't have a hard mainnet node, but you've got a soft node, and that staking is enabled on the Lattice platform as well, right? So just think of Lattice Gateway as kind of like the user interface into our ecosystem.
Yes.
And so, yes, and then there's investing in so we don't call that investing. That would imply that DAG is a security or LTX is a security. We are not a security, but we are opening the doors up for people to, for non-accredited and accredited investors to actually invest in Constellation's equity. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be launching what they call a Reg CF vehicle, which allows non-accredited U.S. investors to actually invest in a company. They call this crowdfunding, right? And so we're one of the first protocols to really open up our books, our accounting books, to the general public, where they can actually participate in our growth and upside from an equity perspective. So pretty things on that front. Hopefully that helps clear things up for you.
For sure. And where would that be offered first?
I can't announce that yet.
Okay.
I promised the group that I wouldn't announce where that would be off. In 2 weeks, though, I think first week of October, we'll be announcing where and how to participate in the Reg CF offering.
Awesome. Okay, so can't announce it yet. Do you know where you'll announce it first? I guess would be the next question. Would it just be through Twitter?
Social media. It'll be, October 4th. I have the marketing planned. Yeah, October 4th is when we're going to announce it.
October 4th. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have everywhere in social. So Twitter and in our Telegram group, and we are moving to Discord as well. So we'll finally have a Discord.
Awesome! I can't wait to hear it. Super excited for it. That's really, really cool. And then getting into the next question, I think this will probably be the last one before we get into the rest. How easy so I know that you mentioned that things are going to become a little bit more, not necessarily difficult, but a little bit more expensive to be getting into when you guys do start charging for transactions. Is there a plan to take it into a hard node in the near future, or something along those lines? Can you speak on that? So taking it from the soft nodes into, a normal validator of some sort.
Yeah, so we have 120 mainnet nodes that are validating all the network transactions. We're onboarding another 250 mainnet nodes with mainnet 2.0, but we'll keep soft nodes up and running. I kind of picture soft nodes as kind of the like business pipeline of potential network reach and nodes, right? There's some 5,000 soft nodes out there. Like that to me is like, oh, there's an additional 5,000 mainnet nodes that can be onboarded. And so we're actually creating a roadmap where our goal will be to onboard all those soft nodes into mainnet nodes. And it's pretty cool. I can't really divulge stuff. You're the first one to ask this kind of question. We've got some really cool things going on behind the scenes that I think will kind of show face at the beginning of the year that'll be pretty outstanding. I'm actually really, really excited about the model where I think it'll be more cost effective for people to participate in the network without having to have like a ton of programming skills to be able to spin up a node.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but definitely a piece that I'm interested in. Super excited to hear it. Real quick though, we are starting up the Kahoot. And we can touch on as we kind of get it set up. Then if you want to touch on anything else that you think is super important as far as the network goes and what mainnet, like one thing I really want to know is how is mainnet 2.0 really changing the scene? But right now, guys, hop into that stream, and I'm going to actually stream that as well. You guys should be able to see both of our screens in just a second. One moment. There we go. And so you guys make sure that you go to ahaslides.com/DK6RV. And I'll post that link. I think Zach actually posted that link in AMA questions. So click that link and then you're going to join with CK6RV. I'll post that as well in question. But yeah, so I was very curious then as to like what the mainnet 2.0 is actually bringing, because I know there's a third date in mind for a new there is a stage 3, correct, in your guys' roadmap that I had seen. And what is mainnet 2.0 bringing that will change the route that you guys have taken so far, or the abilities that you guys have?
I think the best.
Sorry,
I think the best way to think about this is like in kind of a timeline, a linear timeline of developer adoption. So what we're releasing at mainnet 2.0 will allow people to, and the developer documentation that we have today will allow early developers, those that are in the core of our company, for us to, as a company, to build out state channels, examples of state channels, our applications that use the hypergraph, and other and very close like people in the ecosystem. And then over the next few phases, we're going to be just dropping new features and functionalities that really make it easier for developers to integrate the hypergraph. And so this is a process, right? This isn't like a silver bullet. It's really dropping new features and functionalities that relate to different stages of our developer adoption curve, right? And so you have kind of the end. I don't say the end, but like phase 2, we're going to be releasing what they call a tessellation SDK and our L0 token. So people will be able to mint an L0 token, and they'll also be able to design their own state channel. But you kind of need some knowledge behind that to really make that happen. And then over the next few phases, we'll be dropping new features and functionalities that really make it easier for people to develop on the fly. And so those are kind of the phases that I break that out, which also allows us to understand our audience from a developer's perspective and where they are in that kind of adoption curve, right? You can't expect everybody to just want to build on Constellation on day one. So we need those close partners that are building in stride with what features we have and that match their use case. And as we roll out more features, you'll have exponential more use cases that come into the network. And it's much easier, right? So you're going to have a developer that's like, oh, I'm going to wait till phase 3 when they have all this capability. No, then there's others that are diehard fans that are like, we want to build today. We want to help you kind of evangelize use cases in the developer tools and get started now, right? Totally different audience types and personas.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And I think that's everything you guys are doing is at such a you guys are playing chess. If I was to put it simply, you guys are very, very strategic in the way that you guys address all these different problems that you are trying to fix, and I think that's super, super solid. And one of the things that by the way, let's get started on this quiz as we go, so we have enough time to finish it. Zach, if you wouldn't mind leading us through as I go through this, but I mean, one of the things that we like to pay attention to is the team behind a project. And the team, in my opinion, is so much more important than the idea of the project itself, because it really shows, I mean, and it's not to, and I understand the point that you made, not idolizing, putting anyone on a pedestal, but people have track records, right? Yeah. And so with that, you kind of have an idea that if Elon was to launch a third company in the future, it would probably have, you have at least the skills required to do well with that. And so I think that the
Sure.
team dictates more than just the project idea does. So it's really, really awesome to hear all these thoughts from you guys firsthand.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. With Constellation, we take this kind of like approach that it takes a community to raise a child approach, which I think is very different. But each of the founders presents a different perspective and a different knowledge base and a different skill set. And each of those helps us kind of navigate multiple disciplines across our organization and multiple products. Right. We have so many products going on at Constellation, and some of the smartest people that are able to put on like 3 or 4 hats to make this possible. I'm always amazed by our team and their ability to synthesize knowledge and really bring in outside learnings to evolve our vision.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you guys definitely have a team full of superstars, as some people would say, and I think that's huge. It definitely gives a lot of faith to the plans that you have, because you guys have huge aspirations, and I have no doubt that is within reach. So it's really awesome to hear all these things from you guys, and I really appreciate you all for coming on, because it does mean a lot to be able to get a good project on with our community. After everything with the markets being as as wild as they've been the past few months, and just in general, the overall market condition being not great. It's great to hear about the building that's going on in the background.
Yeah, no, that's the double-edged sword with a bear market, is that this is time to just focus and build. And the people that don't have the runway to do that, I feel terrible for them. But if you can plan accordingly for these bear markets and just use this time to focus and build, yeah, it's not fun seeing the markets kind of be so volatile. It's totally not fun. Each of our currencies is like an emotional ticker for us, right? By looking at the price of any of our currencies, you could probably tell the emotions that are going on at the company. But at the same time, when we put our heads down, we're all like, we're building amazing stuff, and we need to capture this time and this moment and deploy products so that at a bull market we're positioned nicely to capture that attention when people are like, oh yeah, I got to get involved in this stuff. Well, you can't. It's hard to build during those times if you're not out there, right? This is the time you got to build, and then wait for that wave to come, and then ride the wave. Sounds easier said than done.
It is definitely easier said than done. But yeah, I think being able to survive in a bear market really indicates whether you guys can survive in a bull market, or like as market conditions go back up into a bull run, or just into better market conditions in general. If you can survive now, you will have no doubt have much easier time thriving in the markets to come. But
this is our third
sorry, go ahead.
bear. Yeah, it's our third bear market that we've experienced. So
you guys have been around for a long time, and I think it wasn't until the past couple of years when your name started popping up everywhere. At least for myself, it wasn't even until a little more recently than that. And then once I started seeing the name, Constellation pop up, it was everywhere I looked. and you guys kind of exploded.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah, and it seemed like it was overnight, but I know there were many years before that were late nights putting in work before before everything else happened.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, we are coming to a close with this Kahoot.
The last question.
Yeah,
man, I feel bad. I feel bad for people at the Kahoot.
What is Mainnet 2.0 launching? Hopefully you guys know that.
Next week.
Yep.
Oh, shoot. Was I supposed to answer that? Or
No.
I love it. You guys are like quizzing me. You're like, Ben, what is the hypergraph? And I was like, wait, what? I thought we talked about this.
No, I was just reading the question out loud. Awesome. Well, Pi takes it home. Nice job, Pi. I think you got 10 out of 10.
Dude, Pi took it by a long shot.
I know.
Nice job.
Congratulations, Pi.
Nice job, Pi.
Yeah, but
Pi's probably a Constellation insider. Like,
yeah, I know he's done his research this past week. I'm pretty sure he found out about you guys fairly recently, and yeah, every day he's been like messaging us about different aspects of Constellation, seeing if we have any answers, or just talking about how great you guys are. So definitely has been looking into you guys a lot recently.
That's cool.
Yeah,
but
he
actually does have a couple of questions. He does have a couple of questions in chat. His first one is, how do different L1s interact with each other through the L0? In what ways, if any, are they affected by each other?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. So state channels are kind of like microservices. So if you understand a microservice framework and how different microservices connect and communicate, that's kind of how state channels will work, right? So there's basically dependencies that each state channel can use. So the whole vision around this is so that other applications can communicate seamlessly to each other. So a way, if you think of a microservice framework, my example is looking at Facebook. If you look at Facebook and or really any application, but I like Facebook. I don't know why I like this example, but and you guys are all really young, so you're like, man, this guy is like old. And it's like, trust me, I don't use Facebook. I'm pretty cool. But look at Facebook. Like when you go to their page, you've got a news feed, you've got friend request, you've got the shop. All of those are microservices that are communicating with each other. And so the development thinking with microservice framework is that you don't have to tear down the entire Facebook website. You just have to, and each of those are separate teams that are building out kind of their own microservice that interconnects and communicates for the entire platform of Facebook. And so that you don't have to take down when you do an update to Facebook, you're really updating different applications or microservices. And so our whole vision is that there will be state channels that have different data dependencies on each other that they can cross-communicate with each other, right, by identifying different data types. And this was our thinking in creating a more flexible framework than, say, a smart contract framework that would allow complete flexibility to define your state channel so that you can communicate with other microservices and applications, trade data, exchange data, query data to create a new application, right? That's all the type of development thinking that goes into really kind of Web 2.0, right? And so when we talk about the shift from Web 2 to Web 3, this is a massive piece that's missing in the Web 3 space, is being able to query data sets between different applications versus siloed development. So hopefully that didn't kind of rack your brain too much.
Yeah. Yeah, we've also got this forest metaphor too. You can look at layer 0 as the fungi that's underneath the soil that's connecting everything, and then you've got the trees are layer 1s, the mushrooms and the grass, they're each layer 1s, but they're all connected underneath and communicating through that fungi, that layer 0. And it's almost like the God layer that connects everything, and it is kind of based on nature. So, yeah.
I love that.
Okay.
Right, when you think of like interconnected root systems in a forest, of how all these roots you see all the trees that they look like different trees, but they're all connected through a common root structure, right? I think that's kind of a great analogy.
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting one. I think that both that and the Facebook analogy explain a lot of these things very, very clearly, because it's things that you can visualize very, very simply and understand and take into a very applicable explanation. But I just wanted to say, because we're getting near that time, and I know you guys are very, very busy, I want to be respectful of that. But thank you guys so much for both coming on here for this AMA, and I really, really appreciate what you guys are doing, and we hope to be able to throw together some events in the future and hopefully help spread what you guys are doing. You guys are doing some amazing things, and I'd love to support in whatever little way that Cardinal House can. But thank you guys so much for taking the time.
No, I can't thank you, Zach and Chris, enough. And Andrea, it's fun to do my first AMA with Andrea over here. I really want to see your community grow. You guys are the future, right? Like this is, God, it sounds like such a cliche adult. Like, ugh, that makes me seem gross. But but seriously, I have a lot to learn from the younger generation. What interests you? What excites you? It's awesome that the younger generation's coming with Web3 and they see a future of it. Like that to me is so exciting. And as such, like we're always looking for people to come work at Constellation, kind of build things out. Like some of the new visionaries are happening right now, and that the way you guys think is vastly different than how Andrea and I grew up, right? And so that's really important to creating a competitive advantage in this world. And anybody that thinks otherwise or talks down to your generation, fuck them. You guys all, like your community and what you're building has a message to say and really can drive this entire space forward. And you have the opportunity in such a unique capacity that's never been done before. So I'm excited for what you guys are building in terms of your community approach.
Those words are beyond kind. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, but I definitely hope we can even provide like a small bit of value back for everything that you guys are doing. So please let us know if or keep us posted on the whole event, all the event stuff, if you wouldn't mind, and we will be in touch soon. But thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Great questions. You made it a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is fun.
I'm glad we can make it a little bit fun. But have a wonderful day, guys.
Yeah.
You too. Bye.